The day the sky burned, the morning of March 15th, 2347, started like any other morning on Earth. People went to work. Children went to school. Ships moved between Earth and Mars carrying goods and passengers. Nobody knew that everything was about to change forever. Admiral Una was drinking her third cup of coffee when the alarm started screaming. She had been in charge of Earth's Orbital Defense Command for 7 years. In all that time, the alarm had never made this sound. This was not a drill. This was not a small problem. This was the sound that meant something very bad was happening. She ran to the main screen and felt her heart stop. Near Jupiter, space itself was tearing open. It looked like someone had cut a hole in the universe with a giant knife. The hole grew bigger and bigger, and through it came ships. Not 1 or 2 ships. Not even 100 ships. Thousands of ships poured through the hole like angry insects leaving a nest. "Count them," Una ordered. Her voice was calm, even though her hands were shaking. 12,000 ships, Admiral, her officer reported. The smallest ones are bigger than our largest battleship. Una closed her eyes for a moment. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. They were not alone. And whoever was out there did not come in peace. The alien fleet moved toward Earth with terrible speed. As they got closer, every phone, every computer, every television on Earth suddenly showed the same image. A creature appeared on the screen. It was tall and thin, with gray skin that looked like old leather. It had 4 arms and eyes like a fly. When it spoke, the words came out in perfect English, perfect Chinese, perfect Korean, every language at once. "I am the overseer of the Galactic Hegemony's 4th subjugation fleet. Your planet has been chosen for integration into the hegemony. You have 2 choices. Submit and serve, or resist and be erased. You have 1 hour to decide." The screen went black. Across Earth, people screamed. People cried. People prayed. But in the hidden rooms where Earth's leaders gathered, there was only silence. It was the silence of people thinking very hard and very fast. Colonel Taiho stood on the bridge of the orbital platform Sejong, watching the alien fleet grow larger on his screens. He was 42 years old. He had a wife on Earth and 2 young daughters. He knew he would probably never see them again. "Sir," his second officer said, "what do we do?" Taiho thought about all the stories humans had told about this moment. The movies, the books, the games. In those stories, humanity always had some secret weapon, some brilliant plan. But this was real life. They had 17 orbital platforms and a few hundred ships. The aliens had 12,000 vessels that made human technology look like toys. But Taiho also knew something else. He knew about Protocol Sunrise. Every high-ranking officer knew about it. It was humanity's secret, built over 100 years by people who believed this day would come. "Begin Protocol Sunrise," Taiho said quietly. His officers looked at him with wide eyes. They knew what those words meant. They meant that humanity had been preparing for this moment. They meant that the aliens might have made a very big mistake. The hour passed. Earth sent no response to the overseer. The alien commander took this as he expected. These primitive creatures were probably still crying and begging their gods for help. He would show them that no gods were coming. "Begin planetary bombardment," the overseer ordered. "Destroy their largest population centers. Leave enough alive to serve as slaves." The alien ships fired. Beams of light brighter than the sun shot down toward Earth. Seoul vanished in a flash of white fire. 20 million people gone in less than a second. Mumbai followed, then Cairo, then Sao Paulo, then Chicago. The overseer watched with satisfaction. This was always his favorite part. The moment when a species realized how small and weak they really were. but something strange was happening. His sensors showed him that people were moving on Earth, not running in panic, moving with purpose, going underground, entering buildings that should not exist. His scans had shown no underground structures in those locations. What is this? He muttered. On Earth, Dr. Jiwan ran through corridors that most humans did not know existed. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had spent 30 years working on a project that everyone hoped would never be needed. Now it was needed, and she was terrified that it would not work. The vault was enormous. It stretched for kilometers under the mountains of Korea. Thousands of people lived here, working on secrets that could never be spoken above ground. Jiwon had led the most important project of all. Project Heda, named after a mythical creature that protected Korea from disasters. Is it ready? General Minji's voice came through the communication system. Minji was 73 years old and had seen more war than anyone should see in 10 lifetimes. She was coordinating the resistance from a bunker even deeper underground. It needs more time, Jiwon said. The power systems are not fully synchronized. We don't have time. They're killing millions. If we fire it now, it might destroy us along with them. There was silence on the line. Then Minji spoke again, and her voice was like iron. Then make it work, Doctor. However long it takes. We will hold them until you are ready. Above ground, the killing continued. The aliens destroyed city after city. They expected the humans to surrender at any moment. Every species did. The hegemony had conquered 62 intelligent races. All of them broke after watching their cities burn. All of them begged for mercy. But no message of surrender came from Earth. Instead, something else happened. As the alien ground troops began landing to claim their prize, they found something unexpected. The rubble was empty. The survivors were gone. Not dead. Gone. Vanished into holes and tunnels that appeared in places where no holes or tunnels should be. And in the darkness underground, humanity was not crying. Humanity was not begging. Humanity was angry. Colonel Taiho watched the destruction of his homeworld from orbit. Tears ran down his face, but his voice was steady when he spoke to his crew. They think they have won, he said. They think we are broken. They do not understand what they have done. He turned to look at his 300 crew members. They were scared. They were sad. But in their eyes, he saw something else. He saw the same fire that had kept humanity alive through ice ages and plagues and wars. We remember every name, Taiho said. Every person they killed today. Every child. Every mother. Every father. We remember them all. And we will make sure the galaxy remembers what happens when you hurt humanity. On Earth, hidden in bunkers and tunnels and secret cities built under mountains and deserts and oceans. 3 billion surviving humans heard similar words from their leaders. The aliens had killed billions of their brothers and sisters. The aliens had burned their homes and destroyed their monuments. The aliens thought this would make humanity surrender. They were very wrong. In her underground laboratory. Dr. Jiwon wiped tears from her eyes and went back to work. The Heda weapon would work. She would make it work. And when it was ready, the creatures who had murdered her world would learn a lesson that the galaxy would never forget. The first day of the war was over. Humanity had lost cities, monuments, and billions of lives. But they had not lost hope. They had not lost courage. And deep in the earth, hidden from alien sensors, they had not lost their ability to fight back. The Overseer looked at Earth and saw a conquered world. He had no idea what was coming. The silence before thunder. 3 days had passed since the attack. The Overseer stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, and looked down at Earth with satisfaction. The planet's surface was scarred with the marks of his weapons. Where great cities had once stood, there was only ash and glass. His sensors told him that he had killed approximately 4 billion humans in the first wave of attacks. The resistance should be collapsing now, he said to his officers. Send down the occupation forces. Begin collecting slaves. The overseer had done this many times before. He had conquered 12 worlds personally. The pattern was always the same. First, you destroyed their cities. Then you killed their leaders. Then the survivors came crawling out of their hiding places, begging to serve. It was simple. It was efficient. It was how the hegemony had ruled the galaxy for 4,000 years. But something about this world troubled him. His sensors could not find the survivors. They should be scattered across the countryside, dying of hunger and radiation. Instead, they seemed to have vanished completely. His ship scanned the surface again and again, but found only empty ruins. Where are they? He muttered. Far below, 2 kilometers under the Taybake Mountains. General Minji smiled at the same question. She was sitting in a command center that looked like something from a science fiction movie. Dozens of screens covered the walls, showing information from across the planet. Officers moved around her, speaking quietly into communication devices. They cannot find us, Lieutenant Junho reported. He was a young man with a serious face and quick eyes. Their sensors cannot penetrate more than 500 meters of rock. We are invisible to them. Good, Minji said. What is the status of our other vaults? All 12 continental hubs are fully operational. We have confirmed survivors in 247 secondary facilities. Total population in the underground network is approximately 3 billion. 3 billion. Half of humanity had died in the first attack. But half had survived, hidden in a network of underground cities that had been built in secret over the past century. The vaults had started as a response to the threat of nuclear war. But over time, they had grown into something much bigger. Some of the leaders who built them had believed that humanity would one day face a threat from beyond the stars. They had been called crazy. They had been laughed at. Now their crazy dream was the only thing keeping humanity alive. Minji stood up and walked to a large window that looked out over the main cavern of Volcaria. Below her, a city stretched for kilometers. Buildings rose toward the cavern ceiling, their lights creating an artificial day. Farms covered huge areas, growing food under powerful lamps. Factories hummed, producing everything from clothes to weapons. 200,000 people lived here, and they had enough supplies to survive for 50 years without ever seeing the sun. The aliens think they have won, she said quietly. They think we are hiding in caves, eating rats and waiting to die. They have no idea. In another part of the vault, Dr. Jiwon had not slept in 3 days. Her eyes were red and her hands were shaking from too much coffee, but she refused to rest. The HFY weapon was so close to being ready. Just a few more adjustments. Just a few more calculations. You need to sleep, Dr. Yunji said. She was Jiwon's closest colleague and oldest friend. They had worked together for 20 years, dreaming of a weapon that could protect Earth from any threat. Now that dream was almost real, but Jiwon was killing herself to finish it. I will sleep when the aliens are dead, Jiwon replied. She was looking at a holographic display showing 6 towers. The towers existed in 6 different locations around the world, hidden underground like everything else. When activated, they would connect to each other and channel energy from the Earth itself. The beam they produced would be powerful enough to cut through any shield, any armor, any material known to science. At least, that was the theory. They had never tested it. They had built the towers in secret, hoping they would never be needed. Now they were needed, and Jiwon did not know if they would work. What if it fails? Yunji asked quietly. Jiwon did not answer for a long moment. Then she turned to face her friend. If it fails, we're all dead anyway. The aliens will find our vaults eventually. They will kill everyone. Our children, our grandchildren, everyone we have ever loved. So we cannot fail. Failure is not something we are allowed to do. On the surface, the hegemony's ground troops were having problems. The Keth were the hegemony's finest soldiers. They stood 2 meters tall, with 4 arms that could each hold a weapon. Their gray skin was tough enough to stop small bullets. Their eyes could see in complete darkness. They had conquered dozens of species and had never met an enemy they could not defeat. Now they were dying in ways they did not understand. A squad of 12. Keth walked through the ruins of what had once been Bizon. Their mission was to find survivors and capture them for questioning. Their sensors told them that humans were nearby, hiding in the rubble. Easy prey. The first Keth died without a sound. One moment he was walking. The next moment he was falling. A hole burned through his head. The others spun around, looking for the attacker. They saw nothing. Their sensors showed nothing. Another Keth fell. Then another. Where are they? The squad leader screamed. Find them. But there was no one to find. The humans who were killing them were half a kilometer away, using weapons that the hegemony had never seen. Weapons that could bend light around their beams, making them invisible. Weapons that could punch through Keth armor like it was paper. The last Keth died alone, in the dark, calling for help that never came. This scene repeated across the planet. Hegemony troops landed expecting to find broken refugees. Instead, they found ghosts who killed them and vanished. Supply ships were destroyed by missiles that came from nowhere. Communication stations were sabotaged by enemies who seemed to walk through walls. The overseer received report after report, and his confusion grew with each one. This was not how conquered species behaved. They should be scattered and terrified. Instead, they were fighting back with weapons that should not exist. How is this possible? He demanded. Our scans showed no advanced technology. These creatures should have no ability to resist. His advisors had no answers. They had studied humanity for decades. They knew about the humans' nuclear weapons, their orbital platforms, their pitiful space fleet. All of that had been destroyed or would be destroyed soon. But these new weapons, these underground tunnels, this organized resistance that seemed to operate across the entire planet at once, none of this had appeared in their intelligence reports. Perhaps we underestimated them, one advisor suggested carefully. The overseer's 4 hands clenched into fists. Impossible. They are primitives. They've only had space travel for 300 years. We have ruled the galaxy for 4,000. They cannot be a threat. But even as he spoke, another report came in. A hegemony cruiser had been destroyed. Not by the human space fleet, which had retreated to the asteroid belt. By a beam of energy that had come from the planet's surface. A beam that had cut through the cruiser's shields like they did not exist. What was that? The overseer whispered. On Earth, Dr. Jiwan looked at her readings and smiled. The test had worked. One tower, operating at 10% power, had destroyed an enemy warship. When all 6 towers were synchronized at full power, they would be unstoppable. She picked up her communication device and called General Minji. It works, she said. Hada works. Give me 2 more days, and we can destroy their entire fleet. Minji's voice came back, fierce and proud. You have your 2 days, Doctor. We will keep them busy. The general turned to her officers. Tell Admiral Yuna to prepare her ships. In 2 days, we attack. In 2 days, we show the galaxy what happens when you make humanity angry. The overseer looked at his fleet and still believed he would win. He had 12,000 ships. The humans had 17. The math was simple, but math did not account for human anger. Math did not account for human creativity. Math did not account for 3 billion people who had lost everything and had nothing left to do but fight. The thunder was coming, and the galaxy was not ready. The wolves emerged. The sun rose on the 4th day after the invasion, but you could not see it through the smoke. The skies of Earth were gray and heavy with ash from the burning cities. The hegemony's occupation forces moved through this gray world like conquering kings, certain that nothing could stop them. Sergeant Dohin watched them from a hole in the ground. He was 28 years old, with a face that had been handsome before the war. Now his face was covered in dirt and dried blood, and his eyes had the look of a man who had seen too much death. Behind him, in the darkness of the tunnel, waited 11 other soldiers. They were all that remained of his original company of 200. "How many?" whispered Private Yeren. She was the youngest of them, barely 19. Her hands were steady on her rifle, but her voice trembled slightly. 47 Keth, Doyun replied, plus some kind of walking machine. They are guarding a communication center. The communication center had been built in the ruins of what was once a shopping mall. The Keth used it to coordinate their forces across all of East Asia. General Minji wanted it destroyed. More importantly, she wanted the hegemony to know that no place on Earth was safe. "We are 12 against 47, said Corporal Hyunwoo. He was the oldest in the group, a veteran of 3 wars who had thought his fighting days were over. Plus a machine we have never seen before. "Then we will have to be careful," Dohin said. He checked his weapon one more time. It was not a normal gun. Dr. Jiwon's team had designed it in secret, using technology recovered from an alien probe that had crashed on Earth 50 years ago. It fired beams of superheated plasma that could cut through Keth armor like a hot knife through butter. "Remember," Dohyun told his squad, "they are bigger than us, stronger than us, faster than us. But they are not smarter than us, and they have never fought anything like us." The hegemony had conquered 62 species. Most of those species had been peaceful. Some had been warriors, but warriors who fought with honor and rules. None of them had been like humanity. Humanity had spent its entire history fighting itself. Nation against nation. Brother against brother. In that time, humans had learned every dirty trick, every sneaky tactic, every way to kill that could be imagined. They had learned that there was no such thing as fighting fair. There was only winning and dying. The Keth were about to learn this lesson. The first attack came from below. Dahyun's team had spent 2 hours digging a tunnel under the communication center. They placed charges directly beneath the walking machine. When the charges exploded, the machine vanished in a ball of fire, and the ground opened up and swallowed 6 Keth who had been standing nearby. The remaining Keth spun around, looking for enemies. They expected to see soldiers running toward them. That was how war was supposed to work. You saw your enemy, and then you fought them. But there were no enemies to see. There was only fire and smoke and screaming. And death that came from nowhere. Yerin fired from a window 200 meters away. Her first shot killed a Keth officer. Her second shot killed the soldier standing next to him. She had been a competitive shooter before the war, winner of 3 national championships. Now she was using her talent to kill aliens. Hyunwoo attacked from the shadows of a ruined building. He did not use a gun. He used a knife, moving silently from Keth to Keth, cutting throats before they even knew he was there. He had learned to fight like this in the mountains of Korea, hunting enemies that no one would admit existed. Dahyun led the main assault. He and 5 soldiers burst from their tunnel inside the communication center itself, appearing in the middle of the Keth defensive position. The aliens had no time to react. The humans were among them before they could raise their weapons. The fight was brutal and short. The Keth were strong enough to break human bones with their hands. 2 of Dohin's soldiers died that way, crushed by alien fists. But the humans were faster and more ruthless. They aimed for eyes and throats and the soft places between armor plates. They fought like animals, with teeth and claws and absolute determination. In 11 minutes, it was over. 47 Keth lay dead. The communications center was destroyed. Dohin stood in the ruins, breathing hard, his uniform soaked with blood, both human and alien. Casualties? He asked. 6 dead, Hyunwoo reported. His face was as calm as if he had just finished a training exercise. 4 wounded. Dohyun closed his eyes and said the names of the dead in his mind. He would remember them. He would remember them all until the day he died. Move out, he ordered. We have 3 more targets before dawn. This scene was happening all over Earth. Small groups of humans attacking and vanishing. Supply lines cut. Officers assassinated. Weapons stolen. The hegemony's occupation force had expected to control a broken planet. Instead, they were fighting a war they did not understand. Reports flooded into the Overseer's command center. We lost contact with Outpost 17. Patrol Group 9 is not responding. There was an explosion at Supply Depot. 4. Commander Kethfer was found dead in his quarters. How is this happening? The Overseer demanded. We have sensors everywhere. We have satellites watching the entire planet. How are they moving without being seen? The answer was simple, but the Overseer could not imagine it. The humans were moving underground. They had built tunnels that connected every major city on the planet. They could travel from one side of a continent to the other without ever seeing daylight. They could appear anywhere, strike without warning, and disappear before the hegemony could respond. Far from Earth, in the asteroid belt, Admiral Yuna was preparing her own attack. 17 ships. That was all she had. 17 ships against 12,000. This is suicide, her first officer said. He was not arguing. He was just stating a fact. We cannot win a battle against those numbers. We are not trying to win, Yuna replied. We are trying to die in the right way. She had received her orders from General Minji. In 24 hours, the Heda weapon would be ready. But it needed time to charge. It needed the hegemony fleet to be in exactly the right position. Yuna's job was to make that happen. When we attack, they will think we are desperate. They will think we are making a final foolish charge. They will chase us. They will try to destroy us. And while they are focused on us, the weapon will fire. Her first officer nodded slowly. So we are bait. Yes, we are bait. We will probably all die. But our deaths will mean something. Our deaths will give Earth a chance. There was silence on the bridge. Every officer there knew what they were being asked to do. They were being asked to fly into certain death, to be hunted and killed, also that a weapon on Earth could have a clear shot. I will not order anyone to join this mission, Yuna said. If you want to leave, I will not stop you. There is no shame in wanting to live. No one moved. No one spoke. And then, one by one, every officer on the bridge stood up straighter. We are with you, Admiral, her first officer said. Until the end. Yuna smiled. It was a sad smile, but also proud. These were good people. Brave people. The kind of people who make humanity worth saving. Then let us begin, she said. Let us show the galaxy how humans die. The 17 ships powered up their engines and began to move. They flew out of the asteroid belt and headed straight for the Hegemony Armada. On their sensors, they could see 12,000 enemy ships waiting for them. The Overseer saw them coming and laughed. Look at this. They are actually attacking. With 17 ships. His officers laughed too. This was the funniest thing they had seen since the conquest began. These stupid creatures actually thought they could fight. Let them come closer. the overseer ordered. Let them see how hopeless this is. Then destroy them slowly. I want to enjoy this. The human fleet drew closer. The hegemony fleet waited. And on Earth, in a bunker deep underground, Dr. G1 watched her power readings climb higher and higher. Almost ready, she whispered. Just a little more time. The wolves had emerged from their dens. Now the hunt was about to begin. But the hegemony was about to discover something terrible, that they were not the hunters. They were the prey. Fire from below Admiral Yuna's hands did not shake. They should have been shaking. She was flying 17 small ships toward 12,000 warships. Every calculation said she would be dead within the hour. But her hands were steady on the controls, and her voice was calm when she spoke to her fleet. All ships, maintain formation. Do not fire until I give the order. The hegemony armada filled her view screen like a wall of metal and death. The smallest enemy ship was 5 times the size of her flagship. The largest, the Eternal Dominion, was 3 kilometers long and carried enough weapons to burn a continent. Against such power, her little fleet was nothing. A fly attacking a mountain, but flies could carry disease. And sometimes, mountains fell. The overseer watched the human ships approach and felt something he had not felt in centuries: amusement. These creatures were actually going to fight. After everything that had happened, after watching their cities burn and their people die, they still thought they could win. They are either very brave or very stupid, he said to his officers. Perhaps both. Supreme One, an advisor replied. The overseer nodded. Perhaps. Let them get closer. I want to see the fear in their eyes before they die. The distance closed. 100,000 kilometers. 50,000. 20,000. The human ships kept coming, flying in a tight formation that made no tactical sense. They were grouped together like they wanted to be destroyed all at once. They are in range, a weapons officer reported. Wait, the overseer said. He wanted to enjoy this moment. This was the last gasp of a dying species, and he wanted to remember it forever. On Yuna's bridge, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Every screen showed red warnings. Enemy weapons locked. Shields at maximum. Hull stress approaching critical limits. Admiral, her first officer, said quietly, "The signal from Earth." Yuna looked at a small light on her console. It was blinking green. The Heta weapon was ready. All 6 towers were synchronized. The power was at 100%. All they needed was for the hegemony fleet to stay exactly where it was for 30 more seconds. All ships, Yuna said, execute patent storm. The 17 human ships suddenly broke formation. They scattered in every direction like startled birds, their engines pushing them to speeds that should have torn them apart. The hegemony ships opened fire, but the humans were moving too fast, too unpredictably. Beams that should have destroyed them hit empty space. What are they doing? The overseer demanded. They are running, Supreme One. They know they cannot win. Then chase them. Destroy them all. The hegemony fleet surged forward. Thousands of ships moved to pursue the tiny human vessels. In their eagerness to kill, they did not notice that they had moved into a very specific position. A position directly above Earth's northern hemisphere. A position that the humans had planned for them to be in. On Earth, Dr. G1 stood before a massive control panel. Her hands were trembling now. Everything came down to this moment. Years of work. Billions of lives lost. The future of humanity. It all depended on what happened in the next few seconds. All towers report ready, Unji said. Her voice was barely a whisper. Begin synchronization, G1 ordered. Across the planet, 6 towers began to glow. They had been hidden underground, disguised as research facilities. Now they rose from the earth like ancient giants awakening from sleep. Each tower was 2 kilometers tall, made of materials that did not exist in nature. They had been built using alien technology that humans had spent 50 years trying to understand. The towers connected. A web of golden light spread across the earth, linking all 6 together. Power flowed through the connections, building and building, until the air itself began to vibrate. Energy at 80%, Yunji reported. 90%. 95%. General Minji's voice came through the communication system. All underground facilities, brace for impact. We do not know what this will do to the planet's systems. 100%, Yunji said. Hada is fully charged. Dr. Ji-won looked at the firing control. 1 button, 1 press, and either humanity would be saved or they would all die together. She thought about her children, safe in another vault. She thought about the billions who had already died. She thought about all the humans who would never exist if she failed. Then she pressed the button. The beam was beautiful. Even the overseer, in the last moment of his life, thought it was beautiful. It was a column of golden fire, rising from earth like the finger of an angry god. It moved faster than light, faster than thought, and it struck the Eternal Dominion before anyone on the ship even knew it was coming. The Eternal Dominion had been the pride of the hegemony fleet. It had survived 1,000 battles. Its shields had turned aside the most powerful weapons of a dozen civilizations. Those shields meant nothing to the Heda beam. The golden fire passed through them like they were not there. It hit the ship's hull and kept going, cutting through metal and machinery and bodies without slowing down. The overseer had 2 seconds to feel fear. 2 seconds to understand that everything he believed about humanity was wrong. 2 seconds to realize that his conquest had failed. Then his ship exploded. The Heda beam did not stop. It swept across the sky like a sword in the hand of a giant. Ship after ship died in its path. Cruisers, destroyers, battleships, carriers. They all burned the same. Their shields could not stop it. Their armor could not slow it. The weapon that humanity had built was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Yuna watched from her bridge as the sky turned to fire. Tears ran down her face, but she was smiling. They had done it. Against all odds, against all logic, they had done it. All ships, she transmitted, cease evasive maneuvers. Let us watch our victory. The surviving hegemony ships were panicking now. They tried to run, to jump back to the safety of hyperspace. But the Heda beam followed them. It tracked their movements with perfect precision, destroying any ship that tried to escape. In 10 minutes, 8,000 hegemony ships were destroyed. The greatest fleet ever assembled had been cut in half by a species they had considered primitive. But the remaining 4,000 ships were not finished. Some of their commanders were smart enough to realize what was happening. They scattered in all directions, making it impossible for the beam to catch them all. And they began firing at Earth's surface, trying to destroy the weapon that was killing them. The towers! Yunji screamed. They are targeting the towers. A hegemony beam struck Tower 3, located in what had once been Brazil. The tower shattered, and the Heta weapon flickered. Another beam hit Tower 5 in Australia. The weapon flickered again and then died. Power is failing, Yunji reported. We have lost synchronization. Can we repair it? Ji-won demanded. Not quickly. The damage is too severe. Dr. Ji-won looked at her screens. 4,000 enemy ships remained. They had killed 8,000, but 4,000 was still enough to destroy Earth completely. If those ships attacked now, there would be nothing to stop them. But the hegemony ships were not attacking. They were running. They were fleeing toward the hole in space that had brought them here, desperate to escape the weapon that had murdered their fleet. Admiral Yuna understood immediately. She opened a channel to all human ships and to Earth itself. They are afraid, she said. They came here expecting easy prey, and we have shown them that humanity is not prey. We are predators. We are wolves. And now they are running from us. Our ships moved to pursue, but there was no need. The remaining hegemony vessels were already jumping to hyperspace, vanishing as quickly as they could. In less than an hour, the skies of Earth were empty of alien ships. On the surface, in the bunkers and tunnels and hidden cities, humans began to cheer. They had done the impossible. They had defeated the greatest military force in the galaxy, but Yuna did not cheer. She was looking at a damage report from her ship. A hegemony beam had hit them during the chaos. Her engines were failing. Her life support was damaged, and she was too far from Earth to be rescued. "Admiral," her first officer said, his voice breaking, "your shuttle is prepared. You can still escape." Yuna shook her head. "The shuttle only holds one person. I will not leave while any of my crew remains." "But Admiral, that is an order." She turned to face her bridge crew. These were the people who had followed her into certain death. They deserve better than to die alone. "It has been an honor serving with all of you," she said. "Tell your families that you died saving humanity. Tell them that we won." The ship's lights flickered and went out. In the darkness, Admiral Yuna sat in her command chair and closed her eyes. She could hear her crew around her, some crying, some praying, some simply sitting in silence. She thought about Earth, about the billions of people who would live because of what she had done, about the children who would grow up under blue skies instead of alien rule, about all the futures that were possible now because 17 ships had been willing to die. It was a good death, she decided. The best death anyone could ask for. The ship systems failed one by one. And in the cold darkness of space, Admiral Yuna smiled. Humanity had won. The galaxy remembers the message traveled faster than light. It passed through relay stations and communication networks that the hegemony had built over thousands of years. Within days, every species in the galaxy had heard the news. The fourth subjugation fleet was destroyed. 8,000 ships gone. The overseer was dead. And a primitive species called humanity had done the impossible. The hegemony's leaders gathered in emergency session. They had ruled the galaxy for 4,000 years. They had never lost a fleet. They had never been defeated. Now they faced something they did not know how to handle. Fear. "We must send another fleet," one leader demanded. "A larger one. We must show the galaxy that the hegemony cannot be challenged." "And if they destroy that fleet too?" another asked. "We do not understand their weapon. We do not know how they survived our attack. What if we send another fleet and lose it as well?" There was no answer to that question. The truth was that the hegemony was afraid. They had built their empire on the belief that they were the strongest force in the universe. Now, that belief was broken, and they did not know what to do. On Earth, the survivors emerged from their underground cities. They climbed up through tunnels and walked out into a world that had changed forever. The skies were still gray with smoke. The cities were still ruins. Billions of people were still dead, but humanity had survived. And more than that, humanity had won. General Minji broadcast a message to the entire planet. Her face appeared on every screen that still worked. She looked tired and old, but her eyes were bright with pride. "People of Earth," she said, "we have won our first battle, but the war is not over. The hegemony will return. They will send more ships, more soldiers, more weapons. And when they do, we must be ready." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "We have learned something today. We have learned that we are not weak. We are not primitives. We are not prey. We are humanity. And from this day forward, the galaxy will never forget what that means." The rebuilding began immediately. Colonel Taiho, now promoted to Admiral after Yuna's death, took command of Earth's space forces. He gathered the survivors of Yuna's fleet and began building a new navy using technology salvaged from the destroyed hegemony ships. "We will not wait for them to attack again," he told his officers. "We will go out into the galaxy. We will find their bases, their supply lines, their weaknesses, and we will hurt them until they understand that Earth is not a world to be conquered." Dr. Jiwan returned to her laboratory. The Heta weapon had saved humanity, but 2 of its towers were destroyed. She needed to rebuild them. She needed to make the weapon stronger. And she needed to develop new weapons, new defenses, new technologies that could protect Earth from whatever came next. "We got lucky," she told Yunji. "The weapon worked, but it almost failed. If they had targeted the towers a few minutes earlier, we would all be dead. Then we make sure luck is not necessary next time," Yunji replied. Jiwan nodded. She pulled up plans for a new project on her screen. A project that would change humanity forever. Sergeant Do-hyun became a hero, though he did not want to be one. His face was shown on news broadcasts around the world. They called him the Ghost of Bizan, the man who had killed 47 Keth with only 12 soldiers. Children wore shirts with his picture on them. He hated it. He had lost too many friends to celebrate. He had seen too much death to feel like a hero. All he wanted was to be left alone. But General Minji had other plans for him. "You know how to fight these creatures," she told him. "You know how to hurt them. I need you to teach others. I need you to build an army that can fight in the shadows, that can strike without warning, that can make the hegemony afraid to set foot on Earth." Do-hyun wanted to say no. He wanted to walk away and find some quiet place where he could forget everything that had happened. But he looked at Minji's face and saw the same exhaustion, the same grief, the same determination that he felt in himself. "When do I start?" he asked. 1 year passed. Then 2. The hegemony did not return. Their leaders argued endlessly about what to do with Earth. Some wanted to destroy it completely, to burn the planet down to bare rock so that no human could ever threaten them again. Others wanted to leave it alone, to pretend that the whole disaster had never happened. But while they argued, something else was happening. Rumors spread through the galaxy. Stories about a species that had fought back. A species that had won. Species that had lived under hegemony rule for centuries began to whisper. If the humans could resist, maybe they could too. In the 3rd year after the invasion, Earth sent its first ship beyond the solar system. It was a small ship, carrying only 1 passenger. Her name was Soo-yoon, and she was perhaps the bravest person on Earth. "You understand the danger," Minji had told her before she left. "If the hegemony catches you, they will kill you, slowly." "I understand," Soo-yoon had replied. "But someone has to go. Someone has to find the others who are suffering under the hegemony. Someone has to tell them that there is hope." She traveled for months, visiting worlds that the hegemony had conquered. She met species that had forgotten what freedom felt like. She told them about Earth, about the battle, about the weapon that had destroyed 8,000 ships, and she gave them a message. "We are building an alliance," she told them. "Not just to defend ourselves, but to fight back. To tear down the hegemony and free every species they have enslaved. If you are willing to fight, join us. Together, we can change the galaxy." The first to join were the Varati, a peaceful species that the hegemony had conquered 300 years ago. Then came the Malkan, warriors who had been forced to serve as hegemony soldiers against their will. Then the Saleth, scientists whose knowledge the hegemony had stolen and used to build weapons. More and more species joined. Some were strong, some were weak. But all of them shared one thing: a hatred of the hegemony and a hope that had been born on a small blue planet called Earth. 5 years after the invasion, Admiral Taiho led Earth's first offensive mission. A fleet of 200 ships, built with human determination and alien technology, attacked the hegemony supply station on the edge of their territory. The station was defended by 50 hegemony warships. The defenders expected an easy victory. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that would not stop, would not retreat, would not surrender. Humans fought beside Verati, beside Malkin, beside Salaith. Former enemies stood together against a common foe. When the battle ended, the supply station was destroyed. Every hegemony ship was in pieces. The Alliance had lost 30 ships, but they had won their first offensive victory. Taiho broadcast a message to the hegemony, knowing they would receive it. "You came to our world," he said. "You killed our people. You thought we would break. You were wrong. Now we are coming for you. Not to conquer, not to enslave, but to free every species you have crushed under your heel. Run if you want. Hide if you can. But know this, we will find you, and we will make you pay for every life you have taken." On Earth, in a memorial built where Sol had once stood, 4 billion names were carved into walls of black stone. Every human killed in the invasion was remembered there. Children visited with their parents. Old people came to cry. Soldiers came before missions to remind themselves why they fought. Dr. Jiwan visited once a year, on the anniversary of the attack. She would find the names of her parents, her sister, her niece. She would touch the stone and remember their faces. Then she would go back to her laboratory and continue her work. General Minji retired in the 7th year. She was 80 years old and tired. But before she left, she gave one final speech. When the aliens came, she said, they thought they knew what we were. They had studied us. They had analyzed us. They thought we were just another weak species waiting to be conquered. They did not understand one simple truth. She smiled, and in that smile was all the pride and pain of 7 years of war. Humanity does not give up. We do not surrender. We do not forget. The hegemony ruled the galaxy for 4,000 years because no one dared to fight them. Now someone has dared, and the galaxy will never be the same. In the years that followed, the war continued. Battles were won and lost. Heroes rose and fell. The alliance grew stronger, and the hegemony grew weaker. And throughout the galaxy, among 100 species on 1,000 worlds, a story was told. A story about a small blue planet that had been attacked without warning. A story about a species that had refused to die. A story about the day that everything changed. They called it the human Counterstrik. And the galaxy would remember it forever.